Welcome to The Herbal Ire, your podcast on all things holistic health, medical astrology, spirituality, herbalism, and so much more. Presented by your host, Ire Atla, medical astrologist, herbalist, and naturopath. Let's dive right into today's topic, love and light. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to The Herbal Ire. I'm your host, Ire Atla, and today I am here with Brandy Jenkins. She is an amazing music therapist and somatic sound practitioner that I think you're going to love. If you don't know what that is, we will dive into that today. So first off, Brandy is a board-certified music therapist and a somatic sound practitioner and the founder of Calm Body, Clear Mind Therapeutic Services. Her unique blend of sound healing, meditation, and other evidence-based and somatic practices helps those recovering from extreme stress and burnout regulate their nervous systems, reconnect with joy, and live with more peace and less overwhelm. She also offers corporate wellness services focused on stress management and burnout prevention and recovery. Brandy aims to create experiences that are trauma sensitive and supportive for those that identify as highly sensitive and neurodivergent. Welcome, Brandy.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here today. Brandy is I would say, fairly good friend of mine. We met, I can't even tell you when now. Time and my brain don't work well together, but we met, and I'm part of her group where she does sound sessions, like sound therapy sessions, like once a month, and they're absolutely amazing, and they work super well. So I'm excited to have her come talk today.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It's always a joy when you pop up for those sound baths. I really enjoy it.
Well, I enjoy attending, so it's a mutual feeling. So for those who maybe don't know that are listening, what exactly is a music therapist and a somatic sound practitioner?
Okay, yeah. So a music therapist, I'm a board certified music therapist, means that I have a degree and specialized training in using music and the properties of music and sound to address physical, emotional, cognitive, and social needs. So it's an evidence-based healthcare practice, and it uses music intervention to achieve non-musical goals. That's one of the easiest ways to kind of describe what music therapy does. And so as a music therapist, that's what I typically have done. And the somatic sound practitioner, I do view that as an arm of music therapy because I am a music therapist and facilitating it. So by definition, it would be a form of music therapy. But it's a term that I feel resonates easier, and it's like being in the sound healing type of realm. So it's maybe it's a fancy word for sound healer. Maybe that's what it is. I just don't like the word sound healer all the time. Yeah. And with the somatic part, the reason I say somatic sound practitioner is because I'm working with somatics. I'm working with the physical body. I'm working with how the frequencies work well with the brain and body.
Yeah, definitely. And there is so much like evidence out there, like you said, it's evidence-based, showing that like everything resonates at a certain frequency, right? Including your brain, your body, your mind. And when those frequencies are off, that, disease can set in. And so by resetting that back to wherever, it actually has really good outcomes for all kinds of different health-related illnesses. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of the theory out there, but science hasn't quite caught up to that. So when you see advertising out there that says this frequency works with this specific part of the body, that is marketing. That is not accurate.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. And I see a lot of people making purchasing decisions based on that. And that always concerns me. And so, but yes, like we're hoping one day that science is able to look at an organ and say, okay, for you specifically, your liver optimized health, we can tell it's an optimized health when it's reading at this frequency. And here are some prescriptions of how to get it resonating to that frequency. We're hoping to get that specific. That would be amazing. We're not there yet.
It would be.
Right. We're not there yet, but we
I find
do.
science lags behind a lot of like the woo stuff sometimes. Like, people will be like, yeah, this is working for this, or I've noticed that this works like this for me, or whatever. And like 10 years later, science will come out and go, oh, yeah, by the way, this does this. And, we're like, yeah, like we said that like 10 years ago. So
Right. Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't always, it's not always on the same page as where some of the other people are. And that's okay. That's how science works, right? Like it takes time to determine some of
Yeah.
that stuff.
And there's also, it's so I say that I use evidence-based practices, and I do, but I
Mm-hmm.
also consider evidence-based to be life experience-based as well. So
Mm-hmm.
practice-based evidence, not all peer-reviewed research. So my training was specifically in, was hammered in my head every day. We had to look at the peer reviewed, because we
Yeah.
were trying to fit in, make sure we fit into the medical model,
Mm-hmm.
the Western medical model. So that has always been drilled into me. But yeah, so when I say evidence-based, I'm looking at all of it, including practice-based and life experience-based, because with evidence-based, with peer-reviewed research, there's some systematic problems. There is,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have somebody fund it. You have to have somebody interested in doing it. So for
Yeah.
instance, there are a lot of studies out there about drumming and rhythm in the brain and healing
Mm-hmm.
and addictions, but there's not so much about singing bowls. I would love to change that. I would love to do a study on that. Um, but so that's kind of, that's just a really basic example of why, yeah, we should absolutely, I agree, bring in life experiences and practice base, and especially with our ancestors, what they knew. We don't learn that now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't
Yeah.
learn
We
what they've
we
always
don't
known.
really.
Yeah. And then it's
Those used to be
repackaged
passed
to us
down.
with this whitewashed marketing as,
Yes.
ooh, new and fancy.
Yeah, and you're like, my ancestors were doing that like, thousands of years ago. Y'all catch up. Um, yeah, a lot of it though, you're right, is just marketing terms and marketing gimmicks to get people to buy whatever it is you're selling, which also is something that frustrates me too, because being in the herbal world, I can't tell you how many times I see the same thing going on where they're like, oh, you need to take, turmeric because it's really great for inflammation. But like herbs don't work that way. For one, you can't just, it's not one size fits all at all. So telling everybody that you should take turmeric for inflammation like doesn't fucking work, because it depends on your body constitution, right? Like if you, as for an example, and I don't know because I haven't I don't remember your chart when we did it, but like if you are a naturally hot running person and you are very hot and you have a lot of fire in your chart, taking turmeric is going to be terrible for you, because turmeric is a very hot natured herb that adds a lot of heat. So you're going to actually cause more inflammation problems instead of less. Whereas if someone runs colder and they're having inflammation problems, that can be from a different process, and turmeric may help that. But you can't just say one size fits all. Take turmeric for this. That's not how that works.
Right. Same thing with frequencies. Like if that was the truth, if there was a specific frequency, for instance, that worked on the heart and healed the heart and released all the love in the world, consistently all the time for everybody, we would all know about it. Like it would be mainstream,
Yes.
everything. There would be a lot more people peddling it too with extra. We'd have like
Yes.
Hertz stimulators, or I don't know what else we would have, but yeah, like yeah, it's and
Tesla
that
would come
makes
out
it
with something.
right. And it's so, and that's what makes it so hard, where we're trying to navigate the line and help people, and you have one way of thinking, dismissing anything that's not in the peer reviewed research, and then you've got another way of that's like, ooh, let me take some of this and how can I market it, like the chakras and the singing bowls. I will say this every day of my life, they do not match the Western C scale. If you get a C bowl, it is not healing your root chakra. This is not, that doesn't work like that. You The harmonies in the bowls are working in your body to help with all of the energy, all of the things. You don't just, it doesn't just
Yeah.
treat one area, and then people, yeah, so like you see it too, people are making buying decisions based on some misinformation that has a tiny truth to it. It's like
Yeah.
pseudoscientific something, yeah. And and just going with it. So what I've seen before is somebody who had gotten, I forget which bowl is supposed to go to the crown chakra on those marketing things, but it was a higher
Yeah.
frequency one. And so they played it and it gave them a headache, but they wanted to keep playing it because so and so told them, and what they were reading was this would heal the mental blocks. No, no,
Yeah.
if it's hurting you, let's
Stop
stop.
taking it. Exactly. And yeah, I see that, like, again, just so much in the herbal world is they take like one semi-truth that yes, turmeric can assist the body with inflammation. We'll go back to that one. And it does in many individuals. But, there's not, it's not going to do that every single time in every single person. Herbs don't work like medications. You can't take them for one specific problem and they fix that one specific problem. Herbs are holistic. So again, you can't take, we're going to take this herb and it's only going to help my left elbow, like that's not how herbs work, they're not specifically formulated for one body part. They're a very holistic measure. You may start taking, red raspberry leaf because you want to tone up your uterus because you're, getting ready to have a baby here soon. And so that's a protocol that I've seen many midwives do, and it's a great one for that, don't get me wrong. But you're going to notice other effects too, because it's not only, it doesn't go in the body and go, oh, let me run to the uterus, right?
Right.
That's not how they work. It's like, it's going to tonify other body tissues along the way. So you're going to notice other effects too, because herbs are holistic. They work with our whole body. And yeah, it's the same, like you said, with the bowls, like it doesn't correspond to only one section of the body. Your
Right.
body is it has a frequency, yes, but it's not necessarily a different frequency in each little section. Not that we know of yet. Let's put it that way. It may be, but none of us have, know that for sure currently. So
Right. Yeah. And you can tell that different frequencies work in the body in different ways. Like they resonate more. Let's say it that way. They resonate
there
more
we
in
go.
one area than the other. Because like if you're singing, for instance, you sing the lower tones, you can feel it lower in your body, the higher tones in the higher. In fact, my my mentor and friend and colleague, Andrea Cortez with Mind Body Music Center in Austin, she shared with me the practice of how she resonates when she has a headache. She sings until she feels it resonating in a
Yeah.
certain area where the headache is, and that really helps her. I like to put one of my singing bowls up to my head. I do. I do that. I need like bad or not bad. Let's take the words good and bad, but I meant like strong stimulation. But
Yes.
yeah, you're right. Like things aren't always gonna work the way that um the way for one person as for the other. Just like with the sound, I aim to play very gently. So I use a lot of harmonies. I made sure that I got quality bowls, meaning they were made with less dissonance. Because when you play it, okay, so when you play a tone, you hear the bass frequency. You hear a sound, that the note, the fundamental pitch. But there are all these other notes going around. They're called overtones. Right. Sometimes you can hear them, but they resonate also in your body. Now, if a bowl is made to not be quality, the overtones are gonna clash. You're gonna hear a little off. So anyway, I made sure like I have those instruments. That I took me several months to find the brass bowls that I wanted, the Himalayan singing bowls that I wanted, and they had to go right with the crystal ones that I had. And oh, let's see. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with? Oh yeah. So I do that, and I try to play to the most gentle. So I use a lot of harmony and less dissonance. So dissonance is when, you've got the vibrations vibrating out of sync too close together. Think of it as two notes close together, clashing, which is
Yeah.
can be very healing when you do that and then resolve it. It's like starting a song like Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, fleece was white as, and then leaving it there. That's like no, like
Yeah.
you need to go with the harmony. And so even when I play like that, using less dissonance, more harmony, trying to play as balanced and soft, even then sometimes it's too much for people, and that's okay. It's contraindicated for some, and that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is not everything, like you said, works for every body. And that's because all of us are designed differently. Like, that's kind of what the work is that I do, right? Like, showing people how they're cosmically designed and how their specific body works for them so that they can, go for the stuff that does work for them, because now they have a much better idea of what exactly that is, which herbs would be better for them. In this case, if sound therapy would be a good idea or not for them, and music therapy and
Right.
things like that. Like, it literally helps me pinpoint, down to like the nutrition that they need to be doing and how their body is designed to, ingest certain nutritional factors over others, right? And so it's that's why I like it, because it really does help me see how that specific person is designed so that we can come up with some really good specific things for them that work great. Which
Right.
is
Oh
why
my
I
gosh,
like it,
yes.
because herbs don't work like, they're not specific. And so knowing like how your body's designed can help me pick which herbs would be a better fit for your body.
Right. Yeah. Tailoring the experience. And though I talk about a lot of what I do with the bowls, because that's kind of where I've gravitated to,
Mm-hmm.
is using that as my primary instrument. And traditional and more, well, I guess I would say traditional music therapy practices, we work mostly, well, I won't going to say mostly, but we work a lot in the rehabilitation type setting. Though I still
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm kind of doing that because I'm working on rehabbing the nervous system. But
Yeah.
with traditional music therapists or typical music therapists, you'll find them um in hospitals, in pain management, also in psych, in rehabilitation. I've worked in school districts, been a part of the IEP team, all sorts of things like that. So like how you're talking about using herbs in different ways. Am I saying it right? Is it herbs or herbs? Is the H silent?
I say herbs because I was trained by British teachers, and they pronounce the H, so it's herbs. My husband's British, so he says herbs. So I say herbs because that was my training, and I live with the person who literally says it that way. And so in America, we don't pronounce the H. In certain other countries, they don't. In some countries, they do. So I don't know. Basically, I guess neither one is correct or incorrect, but I pronounce the H due to my training.
Perfect. I'm gonna pronounce the H. It works for me. Yeah. So like you we can use so even though I talked about just mostly what I'm doing with the bowls, I mean, to get back to your question about what does a music therapist do, we can work with lots of things in a lot of different ways. So using music specifically to help somebody with gait training after
Mm-hmm.
they've had a stroke. Speech therapists use is it vocal intonation? I forget what the actual term is. Um, Using songwriting, we use song music creation, therapeutic drumming. Like there's all sorts of things that we can use music for, and teach other people how to use music also in their own life, because I mean, they already are. We listen to nursery rhymes when we're young. Probably we've heard them.
Yeah.
We
I
we
have a
have our
song that I literally sang to my daughter every night to help her sleep. And to this day, at almost 11, she will sing that to herself if she can't sleep, because it's like it resonates in her body. And I don't know what,
Mhm.
some way that just makes her sleepy. Probably because I sang it to her every night while trying to get her to sleep,
Very
because this
comforting.
child hated sleep.
Oh, and you know something interesting on that too is the music that we listen to between the ages of 11 and 21, our brains stick to till the end. So when I worked in dementia care, Alzheimer's and dementia care, that was mostly the music that I would play for them, or we would work with together, was the music between the ages of 11 and 21. They could have not heard that song in 50 years and
Mm-hmm.
sang every word sometimes,
Yeah.
and just brings them. I mean, it's amazing. So that's interesting. Yeah, when you're talking about, is that's just an example of how our brains latch on to certain types of music and experiences. And we have pump up lists for, like, I don't know about you, but I have a chore list. Like not chore list. Well, I have a chore list, but a chore song, like
Uh-huh.
playlist. That's what I'm trying to say.
There you go.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like there's so many different ways we can use music
Mm-hmm.
to enhance our well-being
Yeah,
in life.
for sure. Speaking of which, I wish that the hospitals that I've worked at in the past had that, because the one that I've worked at actually had a pet therapy program, and mainly dogs, but every once in a while there'd be some other random like animal that would come in, and they literally just go from room to room. They pick, like, each day they go to a different floor or whatever, right? So like one day they're on this, whatever, and they go there and they just walk into each patient's door and ask them if they want to see the therapy animal or not. And if they say yes, and they go in, and half the time the dog or whatever the animal is doesn't really do anything but just show up and just stands there and lets them see them and interact with them. And if they're capable, because they're not too sick, pet them. And if we've had a couple cats, they like lay in their bed with them. And I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference.
Yes,
I have seen a huge improvement in my patients who agree to seeing the animals and those who don't, and who gets out of the hospital first. And that's just with pets. That's not even anything else. I can just imagine with music and stuff, it would probably be, enhanced as well if we did a combination of like all of that type of stuff,
And I've co-treated with pet therapy before. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And
I love when the therapy dogs would show up.
It's weird. It's like our field is still trying to we still get confused so much with entertainers, and absolutely entertainment is needed. You need leisure. You need these things. We work on a different level. We're not going in there with just like, we are trained in verbal processing, to identify trauma responses, to definitely understand when somebody is having a reaction to music. For instance, putting earphones on somebody and walking away to what you think is their preferred music is not necessarily safe. It could be their preferred music. It could also remind them of the death that they had before, a loss. And you could leave them in a state of overwhelm and crying. Yeah, I wish, and it's getting better. It's getting better. We are getting hired more and more. It's just that, well, you know how it is with the corporate world. You know how the bottom line goes. And if somebody in administration doesn't understand, and they say, well, we have entertainers, or we have people who come in, volunteer music for free. They don't understand the
because they don't
difference.
understand. They don't get the difference. I see that would be a problem, because that's exactly how it is. Everything in corporations is based on how much is this going to cost us, and is that cost worth what this person wants us to pay? And they don't see supporting their employees in a way that calms their nervous systems and prevents, like you do, burnout and stuff like that, as something that's worth investing in a lot of times.
Exactly. Right. And that's why I'm creating a course. Like I'm working on a course right now for stress management and burnout recovery, prevention and recovery. And I'm creating it in a course form. And I mean, the whole thing is about learning practices for sustainable self-care. But also I'm using music throughout as a way to regulate and retrain the nervous system. But I know that I have to put those two together, and I have to do it in a certain way, because if I have better luck that way, getting getting music into a program like that, than I do calling and saying, hi, this is what I offer. I can offer a virtual sound bath, or if you're in the Austin area, because that's where I am, in Austin, Texas, I could go in person and do a sound bath. They don't, it depends. I mean, we're getting some traction there too, like, but not as much as if I throw it into a traditional type of course,
which is what a lot of corporations want. They want something that's easy, right? A course is easy to just send to people and say, here, take this. It's not as easy because they can work that into their workday, right? And they're not avoiding work. Whereas if you come in to do something, people have to stop working so that they can come listen to you. And corporations are, again, bottom line based, and they don't want to miss even like an hour of people doing something productive according to them, and they don't realize that that would change it. Yeah,
it's wild because the research shows, and this is where peer-reviewed research is excellent, it shows that there's more productivity and more morale and more retention when you add these types of programs in.
Yes, because people feel supported and they have a way to like get rid of some of that stress that this corporation is putting on them, and they feel like the corporation actually cares about them as people and not just numbers and productivity output devices. So
and I know you've shared some of that you felt in your career.
In the nursing world, especially, the most hospitals that I've ever worked at, most facilities of any kind, doctor, it doesn't matter what it is, any kind of place that you can work as a nurse, it is 90, probably 8% of the time, do you have anything that is some kind of supportive way for you to get rid of stress within that situation? I mean, hell, we'd have a code, right, on a patient, and we'd be doing CPR for how long, pushing meds, doing all the stuff, and then the patient wouldn't make it because that happens sometimes. We can't bring everybody back, unfortunately. And they would, pass away, and you've just spent 2 hours like in this room with this dying patient trying to save them, and they don't make it. And then literally within like 5 minutes of them calling time of death, the house supervisor is breathing down your neck, wanting to know when the body's going to be moved because they can put another patient in there from the ED. You've had no time to decompress. You've had no ability to like calm your system down, or even go cry in a fucking corner if you need to, before they're trying to give you another live patient. And you have other patients that you still have to go see and pretend like everything's fine. And there's no decompression at all. You have to just bottle it all in and make it through the rest of your shift, and no one cares if you can do that or not. And it's disheartening, it's exhausting, it burns out your system so fast. And this is why the suicide rate of healthcare workers is sky high. In fact, the hospital that I was working at in Albuquerque, we had a nurse commit suicide. She said it was too much. Her note literally was like, it was too much. I can't do this anymore. And she was so burned out. And it was someone that, like, no one would have known, because again, we all bottle it all up inside because they don't ever let us decompress. And so I'm a huge advocate for anything like this, because decompressing, stress relief, anything like that, recalculating your nervous system is so important for so many different things and so many different reasons. And so many different industries.
And it's not, again, it's another thing that's not really taught with our culture. If you have regulated people, they're harder to control. Dare I even say that?
No, you're right. It's true.
They don't.
That's what they want.
Like it's, and I see this too. Thank you for sharing that, and I'm very, very sorry about her.
Thank you. It was a little rough, and no one was happy about it. And we literally were all pissed at the hospital. None of us were mad about, like, we were upset about her, but we were just upset because that shouldn't have happened. She felt there was no support, and she had nothing to fall back on, no stress relief. And she felt that her only solution was literally just to end her life, because that was the only way to get any relief. And we were more pissed at the hospital than we were anything else, because like, what the fuck? Of course.
Yeah, and then you don't even have time to, you've got compound grief upon grief upon grief,
grief,
and then probably delayed grief as well, because you're not having time to grieve. So then when it comes out all over your family, all over your personal time, all over everything else. And that's one of the reasons that's why I shifted into what I'm doing now, because I see such a need for this, especially for us helping professionals. We're also taught to be martyr syndrome kind of thing. Like, and it's just in my husband's career, and he's not in healthcare, he's in city administration, so hired and fired by city council kind of stuff. Like, his job is not political, but he is unfortunately affected by that kind of thing. We've had a lot of trauma with that job. We've had a lot of trauma with his job, and I've seen how this stress that he has at work and these responsibilities and what's happened, and us having to move over and over, and I mean, it's really taken a toll on him, has taken a toll on me. Like, it's been really, really rough. And that's what really and truly was the first spark of inspiration to go this way. And then seeing my colleagues and um in music therapy having this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you be, like a cross colleague, like a sister colleague over there in nursing, like all the helping, like all
Probably, yeah.
these, everyone's burning out all over the place. And I mean, during the pandemic, I think people, when everybody had to stop, I think a lot of people realized, including myself, of, oh crap, wow, I
Yeah.
really have been going like this, because you think this is normal, how our bodies are
Mm-hmm.
supposed to act.
And
And
we're told that it's normal too. If you go to the doctor for it because you're having health symptoms, they're like, "Oh, well, that's just a normal part of life. Here, take this
mhm,
pill to make the anxiety go away." But they don't fix the problem that's causing the
right.
anxiety. So you get stuck in a cycle. The problem causing the anxiety is you probably need a new fucking job, or you need
Yeah.
to go get some stress relief somehow. Taking a pill doesn't fix that problem. And all you do is get
Mm-mm.
stuck in a cycle, and then it's hard to get out of that cycle, because then when you're lost in it, you don't even see a way out. You're tumbling so much
Yes.
in that circle that even if you catch a glimpse of the light, it's just that, a glimpse, and you may not see it again for months or years before you can really find a way out. And it's
Yeah.
hard when you're in that, like, all that stress, and what's going on is your body is reacting in such a way that you just literally feel like there's no end in sight, and you have no way of getting out of it, and you can't find a solution on your own sometimes, which is where people like you and I come in, where we can help you find a way, to a door for you to get out of that,
Right. And use things that are available to you. Singing is
Mm-hmm.
free. Using
Yeah.
your voice is free. And it's something
Mm-hmm.
that can immediately calm you down.
Yeah,
It's also
exactly.
something that can immediately lift you up. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to say before I forget that this, as like your profession, is so perfect for you because you are an Aquarius, right? Like, if I
Yes,
remember
I am.
correctly. Yeah. So Aquarians are actually really sensitive to the EMFs in the world, the electromagnetic fields and stuff, and actually are very sensitive to all that kind of like frequency interruption in their day and their life and stuff like that. And it can cause a lot of health problems for them if they're around stuff too much that like literally interrupts that too much. So like computer jobs, sitting behind a computer all day, is really not good for Aquarians, because all of that like bright shininess from the computer and the flashing lights and in an office with this stuff, it can really be very disrupting to their system and really start causing a lot of stress related issues, and then disease comes from that. So you doing this as like an Aquarian, where you literally help people kind of like reset their frequencies and get that like out of their bodies, is like so apropos. Like, it's just literally, when I found out you were an Aquarius to do this, like, oh my God, that's like literally like the perfect thing for an Aquarius to do.
Yeah, because I'm also, when I play, I'm also healing myself. I'm also
Yeah.
helping myself. Like, I get something
Mm-hmm.
out of all this as well. Like, for
Yeah.
me.
Which is probably why subconsciously you probably chose it. Maybe you didn't even realize, like that's maybe something why that this stuff was so bothersome to you, but you found that it really helped you. You're like, hey, I should do it, help this other people too. So you subconsciously probably chose it because it helped you. And then Aquarians really like to learn something like quickly and then teach it to other people or use it to help other people. So you're literally just like living
Oh
exactly what
gosh,
your
that's
chart says
me.
you should be doing.
I train in everything I can get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you this, the origin story kind of the bowls. I got the crystal bowls about 5 years ago, and they just sat in my house for a little while, and I kind of look at them here and there. And that was when I was practicing more, and I was working as a music therapist in different older adult communities. And so traveling around and doing more of that. Um, and working with adults with IDD as well. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I had these just sitting there, and I was like, And then I would listen to some people play bowls, but I didn't like a lot of what I heard. And so I just ignored it. Again, people who tended to play with too much dissonance for me, or too
Mm-hmm.
loudly for me, or didn't balance things enough, or move too quickly to the next tone. For me, as a highly sensitive person, that was too much stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't until I heard, and I mentioned her earlier, Andrea, my mentor, play. And I felt like my body was getting infused with medicine I've needed my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And I craved it. So I would listen to her recordings, and I would go to her lives. And then she opened up teaching. she's also a music therapist. And so yeah, I've learned everything I learned from her with this. And that's my origin story with that, because I craved it so much that I was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is my life now. And I was worried because, I also have ADHD. So I'm like, am I just being impulsive here? Yes, but it's stuck. So, it's okay. I'm off.
It is. Yes.
Some things work with impulsivity. When I just like randomly bought bowls, and, Jeff would see the stuff coming, and I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. Oh, don't worry about it. I finally came clean to him about how much I actually spent. And we have an agreement that, for now, that I don't spend any until I have the cash to pay for that. So,
Yes.
which is good. But that's my origin story with the bowls. I craved it so much, and it released so much for me that I'm like, this is it. This is my life's work now. This is what I've been waiting for to use. And after the pandemic, people are open to virtual.
Yeah.
They weren't open so much to virtual before. And I didn't have the energy anymore. My body was hurt from carrying all the instruments in and out of communities and getting rear-ended and all of these things,
Yeah.
And so that's why I chose the bowls.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of like my thing too, why I went into herbs. My husband tells me too, if any more herbs show up, he's like, I don't know where we're going to put them. He's like, I guess they're going to have to ride on the roof with you. So, because, we live in, tiny space, so we don't have a lot of space. And I keep buying like bags that are like 5-pound bag of, German chamomile. And he's like, how much chamomile do you need? And I'm like, a lot. I put it in a lot of preparations. Leave me alone.
You can put some hooks on your ceiling there, and
I'm gonna have to do something. Oh my God. It's he's like, this is getting out of control. How many herbs does one person need? And I was like, well, I haven't gotten all of the herbs yet. And he's like, all meaning all of the ones you want, or like all of the herbs in the world? I was like, the second one. I haven't gotten all of them yet. So I still have quite a bit I could get. He's like, oh my God. I don't know where our budget is going, but I think all of it is going to herbs. I was like, yeah, probably. So I get that. Yeah, but my story kind of started the same way too, where, I found such healing in the herbs and what they gave me, provided my body and helped my body do, that I was like, yeah, this is amazing, and I want to do this for other people too. And so it kind of got me, into something that I might not have probably even considered prior to that, So that's a good way to get into things, though. Seriously, is seeing what works for you, and then, try it out to do it for other people too, and go from there.
Right. And that's what I suggest to other people when they're trying different things with music and sound. Explore. If this tone is supposed to be super healing and it makes you want to jump off a 10-story building, then let's not do that. Let's you want to find that, you want to really connect with yourself and become aware. And you do the same thing, I'm sure. Like, one of the first things that we teach people is to connect that mind and body, so that you are more aware of what's happening in your body. You're feeling what's happening. You're more mindful in there. Like, for instance, it took me a long time because I'm an emotional eater, it took me a very long time, and I'm still working on it, to discover when I'm actually hungry and when I'm not. What are the body signals? What's real and what's not? What do I feel? What is it?
Yeah.
What's happening over here?
Exactly.
So that's one of the first things that you and I probably both work on with people is that connection, because again, in our culture and the Western model of medicine, everything's compartmentalized, and you and I don't work in that realm. We work in holistic, everything's connected, like it should be, because it is.
Yeah. Every system in your body is connected to each other. Like, legit, get constipated. Just try it. Get constipated and see what other systems stop working because your bowel quit first. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous how many things are reliant on your colon doing its job properly, as in having a bowel movement daily. Stop having one to two bowel movements daily is normal. So stop having 1 to 2 bowel movements a day and start going 3 to 4 days in between, and see how you start feeling after that. you will start feeling really awful pretty quickly, because when food's not moving through properly, it starts backing up. Your bile's not being excreted as it should. So then your gallbladder gets dysfunction and the bile just sits there. So then you get gallstones potentially. Your liver's not working as well because its job is being interfered with by the colon not working. Then your spleen starts having issues, then the pancreas. And before you know it, your stomach's now having issues. And then that all backs up and leads to, mental health issues, because your gut produces your serotonin and your dopamine. And when it's not working properly, now your mental health is going in the toilet. And that's literally just from you like being
Right.
constipated.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a beautiful example. And it's a fun example, but
yeah,
no, but really,
yeah,
it's like the perfect
exactly.
example.
Because
Yeah, and
everything in your body is connected. And if one goes wrong, something else can potentially go wrong as well. And the longer it's left untreated, the more likely something else is to go wrong.
right. And I like how you also talked about the chemicals in the brain. And so for people listening who don't know, you were talking about two of them, and there's 4 dose chemicals that we like to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
right? That are the big ones. You got the dopamine associated with motivation, reward, and pleasure. Anybody with ADHD knows about that one.
Yes.
Oxytocin, that love hormone, with the social
Mm-hmm.
bonding. That's why self-hugging can work. And
Mm-hmm.
certain types of music as well can elicit that love response. And
Mm-hmm.
dopamine too. Serotonin associated with the mood regulation, appetite, right? And you mentioned,
Yep.
and then the endorphins, which is that group of neurotransmitters, right? That's with pain relief. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, so yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because that was a good, just in case people didn't know what those are. And music enhances all of those, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends, of course, on what you consider music or not. Music, okay, all sound, all, oh wait, no, all music is sound. Not all sound is music, because music is subjective. Music has to be
Mm-hmm.
pleasing for you, right? So,
Yeah.
so what will elicit dopamine in one person won't in another. So,
Mm-hmm.
and music and
Yeah.
sound that, yeah, sound that you do not like is noise, really, like, or it will
Yes.
disorganized
Yeah.
frequencies.
I will say, because that's exactly like a perfect example. I love oh god, Disturbed, that band Disturbed. I like their music, I like how it sounds, I like the tone, I like everything about it. But give me Five Finger Death Punch and I want to Five Finger Death Punch you in the face. Like, I can't handle it. It does not sound like music to me. It's absolutely grating. It gives me like a visceral, hateful reaction where I just want to throw my phone or whatever I'm listening to music across the room or break it, because it's so awful to me. And I have so many friends that are like, oh my God, I love Five Finger Death Punch. I listen to them all the time. They make me feel so happy. And I'm like, oh my God, how? Like,
Right.
what are you doing that I'm not? Because I'm like, I've tried, and I've literally tried multiple albums, different songs. Like, it wasn't like I listened to one song and made a whole judgment. I literally have tried to like this band and I cannot stand them. And everyone's like, well, you like Disturbed. I'm like, yeah, but something is different in their music. It makes me happy, and Five Finger Death Punch makes me hateful
Right. There's
and mad.
something in there that just doesn't jive with your brain, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I
exactly.
know.
But
It's
now that you
totally
said that, that
subjective.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, totally subjective. And then you've got things too, like binaural beats, right? They're all the rage right
Mm-hmm.
now. And what that is
Yes.
one tone in one ear and another tone in another ear close together to where um your brain recognizes it as a tone somewhere in the middle. I mean, that's
Okay.
the easiest explanation to.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like this miracle wonder thing for ADHD and focus and other. And for some people, their brains love it. It really does. It's cool. For people like for me, you give me a binaural beat, like a true binaural beat,
Yeah.
and no, my brain freaks out. It's like, what the fuck is happening here? So no, I can't do that. And a lot of things too, I've noticed some things are marketed as binaural beats, like on different meditations you can find on YouTube that aren't actually
Yeah.
binaural beats. So interesting there, but that's a whole nother topic. But yeah. So like, and I get, all the time I get that. You're a music therapist and you have ADHD? Yo, you must create binaural beats, or you must listen to binaural. No,
Yeah.
no,
Now
I
they
do
make me
not.
hateful.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, yeah,
Yes,
unless
I
you want
see
me to
that,
do
kid.
rage sound bath where we're screaming,
Yeah.
which hey, could be very healthy. You can do wailing is such a
Yes.
beautiful thing for grief, and many cultures do it.
Hmm. I have found for myself when I get in like a really stressful type situation or something that's just I'm not handling it as well emotionally and, mentally as I probably could be otherwise. I find that like I start taking like really deep breaths through my nose and then almost subconscious, like I don't even realize I'm doing this. I'm like start really deep breath in my nose and then and I just keep going and everyone's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" Because I don't even realize I'm doing it. They're like, "Well, you sound mad," and I'm not. I'm literally just like, you know, getting that out. And I find that I feel less stressed and I'm able to easier get through whatever the situation is the more I do that. And I realized it just like maybe a couple of years ago that I do this. And then I read something about how that's like actually really good because it's like getting like some of that stress and frustration out. It actually has like a purpose. And I was like, oh, I just thought I was just like a weirdo, but apparently subconsciously my body is like trying to help me stop being so stressed and to get rid of some of that.
Right. Yeah. And you're creating resonance when you do that in your body too. Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you really are. And that's when I try to stay away sometimes from the word singing, for people who are a little stressed about that, because again, we live in a culture that's performative. Everything is so performative.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not sounding this way, which is supposedly be the best way that's socially acceptable, it's like body types, right? Whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then you shouldn't sing unless you're at this level, or I'm not explaining it right, but I think you get it, and I think anybody who's listening will understand that. You
Yeah.
hear it all the time. I can't sing. I'm not singing. I can't sing. I can't carry a tune. I can't this. We and I used to tell I would happen a lot with the older adults that I work with, and I was like, let's make joyful noises. We're just gonna make joyful noises. Like, we're
Yeah.
not gonna call it singing. We're just gonna make some noises, because anything that you
Yeah.
can do, even talking out loud, anything you can do to create the resonance and vibration is going to help. And I start with
Mm-hmm.
when I first dip my toe, or ask someone else to dip their toe into vocal activation, or activating our voice, or using our voice. The first thing I'll start, like, maybe I'll play the bowl, and then I'll say, okay, we're just going to release a sigh. We're just going to breathe in, a gentle breath in, and then, ah. I mean, we just start simply with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough,
Yeah.
even. If we never get
Yeah.
past that point, that's enough.
Yeah. I find for me that just like really loud sigh really helps me because I'm typically, in those situations in a place where you can't really like start verbalizing like what the fuck is going on here, right? Start like talking about it without like causing issues with other people. And so that just like really works for me. But I'm the kind of person who when I get upset or there's some kind of emotional response, I need to talk about it. Like I need to just even if no one is listening, I need to talk out loud about like what I'm feeling, how this is going on, what's going on in my body and how I'm feeling. And then once I do that and I do it for however long I need to, and I'm done, like basically like a big vent sesh, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel better and I like legit then don't hold on to that in my body anymore. Like my body really just needs me to like be mad for a little bit and talk through everything out loud and then I'm good.
Oh
So
my gosh, I'm very similar. Yes. And anger is not a bad emotion, people.
no, it's a
Anger is
necessary emotion
necessary.
sometimes.
Yes, righteous rage. Like,
Yeah.
anger is necessary. And there's something you said I wanted to circle back around to. Gosh, what was it? You said, oh, I don't know. Oh, yes, yes. It's when you said, at first the sighing, because you don't know, you don't have the capacity to put it in the verbal plane yet.
Hmm.
And that's one way that people can use music in their lives as well. You
Yeah.
can listen to music to match your emotion. We call it the ISO principle in music therapy. You match where you are, and then you gradually take yourself where you want to be. And that's something you can do if you're not a verbal person. If you can't get it out and you're just raging, pull out a drum. If you don't have a drum, use furniture, use your body. Well, don't hurt your body, but like, you can
Yeah.
get on a table and do some drumming or something. But you want to match yourself, or listen to your screamo if that gets you going. If that's where you are, like, if that doesn't make you worse,
Hmm.
then if that's your thing, then start with that. But that's one way. Um, that you can use music. I've used music when I'm a crier. I cry all the time. I cry at everything. But some people have a rough time doing that. And I've
Mm-hmm.
helped people do that through listening to certain music, certain a lot of minor modes will kind of do that. But a lot of certain music that elicits that sad response for them. So maybe it can trigger a body's physiological reaction and
Mm-hmm.
cry. So there are lots of different ways that you can use music when you don't have the words yet. That's
Yeah.
why music therapy works so well with trauma survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because a
trauma.
lot of times, depending on what the trauma was, you can't process it in a way where you can talk about it. Like
Nope.
they're like, oh, go to therapy. Therapy doesn't work where you have to talk about something when you can't talk about it because you haven't found the words in your body to come out with it, or you just can't even express it because it's just too traumatic still to do that. Music is
Mhm.
great for that. Massage actually is great too in a way because it helps like move things through
Yeah,
the body. And
absolutely.
so if you combine that with some music therapy while you're getting a massage, like yesterday, for example, I had a massage. I desperately needed one. We had a horrible year last year. So much stress was just like literally, I could feel it like trapped in my body. And so I went and I had a really long, like really deep massage. And I was like, I literally combined with the music she was playing, which was very like much like similar to how you do it with like the sound bowls. And it was like all that very gentle and whatever. She got to one point on my body where she was really rubbing, and all of a sudden I just like burst into tears and
Hmm.
like literally just like and when I got done with that massage, this is the first massage I've had in a really long time where I walked away literally feeling like I was like high on drugs. I've never been high on drugs, so I have no idea if this is actually how you feel, but I felt like I was like walking on like a cloud. Like nothing felt real around me. Everything was moving really fast, but I felt like I was like crawling like a snail through it. My body was just like, it didn't feel like I was connected to the earth anymore. Like I felt like I was floating. Like I was just like, it took me like hours to come down from whatever that was. And I just felt great. And I still to this, like today, feel great too. I'm a little sore because I had a lot of knots that she had to really work out. But despite that little bit of soreness, like I feel really good. And I noticed that I feel lighter and more emotionally stable today and whatever. And honestly, prior to, all my journey myself for me healing my body and, doing all this stuff, I never ever would have been okay with me like crying in the middle of a massage. I would have been like, oh, suck it up, you're fine. And I wouldn't have allowed my body to feel what it needed to feel. And I would have just continued the cycle. And so I personally am really proud of the fact that I gave zero fucks if she cared that I was like sobbing on her table. And it was really freeing and it really helped me get out whatever it was that my body needed to release at that moment. Honestly, probably trauma about all last year because last year was very traumatic for us. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, massage therapists are absolutely a blessing, a wonderful thing. I had one the other day as well. It was and I love how they use music therapeutically. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and it's interesting if you look around how much music and sound is actually used in combination because those two things, well, with a lot of therapies or and just a lot of things. I mean, there's elevator music. They use music in marketing. I mean, music is everywhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Create some jingles. I mean, they just get stuck in your head. Um, so yeah, using music therapeutically and combining that is really powerful. And I say that with meditation. So I'm one of those people that cannot meditate in silence. I don't like it. I don't I
No,
don't I don't
I can't
want
either.
to get used to it. Yeah. So I need music to meditate. Um
Mm-hmm.
that's just
Yeah.
something my brain needs, that
Same.
extra backgrounds. That's an example. If
Mm-hmm.
you're out there listening and you are like, I do not ever want to meditate, I don't want to hear that word ever in my life again, try it with music, see if it helps you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just like massage therapy, well, not just like massage, it was similar to massage therapy. The sounds, especially in person, now they can be very powerful through virtual, and that's mostly what I do because it does go through your middle ear muscle
Mm-hmm.
there, right? Like you're still getting it into your body when you're around, but in also in person. I think that's why they call them sound baths,
Yeah.
because it feels like your body's bathing in
Mm-hmm.
sound because the frequencies are entering into your body and the vibrations and all of that is working. similar to when you have a massage therapist, they're physically
Mm-hmm.
manipulating your energy inside and your muscles and all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. And I might be saying some things that are weird, and that's okay. Just I don't know if
We're
I'm
not massage
explaining
therapists,
anything that
disclaimer.
yeah, it comes in my head, and I'm not sure if it comes out anything, but what I'm trying to say is that um that's an analogy I can use when I explain how sound works in the body. It's
Mm-hmm.
similar to the effects. So like you have your massage and you feel the effects way after. Same thing with using sound and healing. That's where I was trying to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
And also
No, I
share my
get it. Yes.
appreciation with all the practitioners who also use sound and music therapeutically in combination with what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have absolutely great respect for so many modalities and out there. I think it takes
Yeah.
a lot of us. Yeah, and I'm not one of those that feels like it's always one over the other. I love the
No.
combination. I think we need a
Mm-hmm.
top down, bottom up approach. It's like with talk therapy, great, add body work to it as well. Like we
Mm-hmm.
need everything.
Yeah. It
Anyway,
needs to. I'm like that because again, it's holistic, right? And that actually
mm,
is a holistic approach to go to multiple practitioners and, you know, do multiple modalities that work for you and your body.
yeah. Oh, and good for you for crying on the table. So excited that you mentioned that because people need to be validated that that is okay. Crying is your
Yeah.
body releasing and letting your nervous system go back to an equilibrium. It is one of the
Yes.
ways that you can do that. It is an amazing way to do that. So I wanted to circle back
Yes.
around that too and just like clap
Yes.
and validate. And I'm so glad that you shared that. And I'm so glad that you had that. Like sometimes, oh gosh, and have you ever just like you needed a good cry and you
Mhm.
just let it all out?
Yes. Crying
Feels good.
resets your nervous system in a way that like literally almost nothing else can sometimes, depending on what you're really feeling. Sometimes it doesn't matter anything else that you use, it doesn't work just as well as crying does. And sometimes you just need to cry, and that's okay. And I have so many clients who come to me, and when we really get working together and they start healing, they start crying. Like, I've never
Mm-hmm.
cried in my life. I'm not a crier. And I was like, yeah, but you should be. That's the point. We're humans. We should have that emotion. It's something you need to do to reset your nervous system. It's okay to cry. Crying is actually not only okay, it's necessary
It's
for so many different
necessary.
things. Yeah, and
Yes,
they
and not
start
just
being
the
like, "Oh,
right, and not just the silent crying. Notice how when you're crying, you're also using sound again. Here we come back to using
yes,
sound in your voice.
yes."
Like it's always
It's
around us. It's always here.
it's all
Yeah.
interconnected.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
Even laughter, sound. There's
Hmm.
a whole field of laughter therapy I think I've seen or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
Yeah, I mean
I've
like
seen
this.
something similar too.
Yeah, I
Laughing
love all of
yoga
these
or
things.
something I saw, which
Yeah,
actually
I've
would
seen
work
that.
really well together because of laughing, which is the vocalization, and then you have the body movements with it. And they
Yes.
usually play music of some kind in a yoga class. So you have like the three modalities coming together. And yoga itself is very restorative to the nervous system in many ways. So it's really like that'd be like a great whole system there. Honestly, when I do certain poses in yoga, I just burst into tears in those too. So, I cry a lot. It's okay. It's okay to cry,
Yes.
y'all.
Yes. Yes. Cry, cry, cry. All the time.
Yes, it's
Works.
good for you. Well, I would love to just talk for like 17 more hours with you, but I'm pretty sure my listeners are going, oh my God, this is so long. So we will go, everybody. Sorry. But if you want to hear more from Brandy, she can tell you where to find her and you can go get more information. So, how can they find you, Brandy?
I'm going to say go on to my website. It's brandyjenkins.com. Brandy spelled with a Y like the whiskey. BrandyJenkins.com because I have a lot of things in the work and I'm changing things around. Like I've started 2 YouTube channels. There might be a third one coming. Like I just do a lot of different things and I'm going to use my website as the hub of where you can find some information. And that's where you can also jump on my email list. That's where I would say you're going to get all the updated information. And I believe in
Mm-hmm.
options. So I give a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. But yes, my
Awesome. I'm
website is
on her.
probably the hub.
Yes, I'm on her newsletter and it's great. It comes as often as you would like it to. As she said, you sign up for the amount of emails that makes you happy, and it's great. And if you want to get a sound bath from her, I highly recommend it. I've done some of her free ones on her Facebook group, and those are amazing. So, highly recommend if you feel like that might be a good option for you to try to check out Brandy and her stuff that she offers. So thank you everyone for listening today. I'm glad that we could talk about this. And again, if you want to hear more from Brandy, head over to her website and check her out. I will talk to you guys later. Love and light. That's it for another great episode of The Herbal Ire. Tune in next week for more valuable content with your host, Ire Atla.